Good evening, everyone. My name is Barbara Holt-Streeter, and I serve as the Director of Strategic Partnerships for the Office of the County Executive, Angela Also Brooks, here in Prince George's County. We're honored to have you all join us this evening for our local grant workshop. At this time, I will introduce the chair of the Local Development Council, Dr. Lattimore, and she will also introduce any of her uh, council members and co-chair and talk a little bit about what is Local Development Council. Then I will be returned to me and I'll introduce the speaker for tonight and we'll be able to move forward. Dr. Lattimore?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this workshop. I see you, Ms. Streeter. I don't see anybody else. Oh, there you go. Okay. So thanks for joining the workshop. This is probably the fourth year that I've done it, and Kanika does an excellent job at it. A lot of you have applied for grants, and some of you will be new at this year. I just want to emphasize that we do have local development council members. I'm not going to introduce them all because I don't know if they're all here tonight. The co-chair is Delegate Veronica Turner. She is not able to join us, but she will get a copy of the presentation or of the recording. One of the things that I really wanted to stress and try to bring home is that this is a very competitive process. When I first joined, it appeared that some of the same 501c3s were getting grants every year. So it kind of gave me the impression, just by looking at the applications, that they kind of worked this grant into their budget sheets every year, as if they were going to get them repetitively. So it is a very competitive process. We have a lot of grants that do the same type of service. So I would like to impress upon everyone to try to do something that we don't have in District 8. The impact grants are used for infrastructure improvements, facilities, public safety, sanitation, economic and community development, including housing and other public services and improvements. So for example, we have a lot of STEM projects. We get a lot of tutoring projects. We get driver's ed projects. Some of the projects that I think that we need in District 8 and within the 6 mile radius is such projects or programs like homelessness, addressing that because we do have that in our area. We need daycare for young adults that can't find daycare or can't afford it. We also need programs such as special education programs. As you know, Prince George's County and really all the counties are very short on special education services for our children. A lot of these special ed teachers travel from one school to the next, just to give that type of education that is so severely needed in our county. There's no hardly any programs for like autistic kids, things like that, or where, for example, autistic kids can go and just play on sensory equipment because they really can't be productive on a regular playground. So I just want you to keep those type of things in mind. I hope that your proposals will make an impact within District 8 because that is the goal. And that's why it's called impact grants. So we had a lot of money year before last, but our budget has been cut. And the applications have gone up. When I first started, we would get maybe 30, 40. And then I started spreading the word that these funds are available for 501c3s that want to make an impact within the 6 mile radius of the National Harbor. And last year, I think Kanika, we got like 60 something, correct? So the word, yeah, so the word is spreading. So now everybody knows about the LDC and these grants. The only I'm not going to say downfall, bad part is that, we got some of our money cut. It went to another cause, which, I have no objections to that. We can still give out money. It's just not going to be as much as we were given maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So with that, the training is excellent. Kanika does a great job every year. I would caution you that, please pay attention. Please send in all the documents that she asks you for. Something simple as your DUNS number or your cage code or whatever she asks you for can get your application placed to the side because we have all these other applications. So please double check your applications to make sure before you hit that submit button that you have everything. And we rate the applications, the committee does. It's made up of members of the LDC committee. And last year the chair said that I rated them too hard. Well, that's because they're competitive. And if we already have 4 and 5 tutor programs, then we don't need 6. So, that's not making an impact. That's just mirroring something that we already have in the community. And I would urge everyone to try to partner with other organizations as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Streeter.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lattimore, for that information. And I also like to share, I have 2 of my team members, one that are in the Office of Strategic Partnerships that work alongside of Dr. Lattimore for the Local Development Council. That's Ms. Sheila Curry. She serves as our Grants and Special Projects Manager. Ms. Sheila, if you'd like to say hello. And she's waving.
Sorry, I was trying to get to the mute button. Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm Sheila Curry, and I work in the county executive's office with Barbara Holt-Streeter and Letitia Vincent and the beautiful Kanika Bynum. So, of course, any questions you guys have, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. I know many of you already from the Community Partnership Grant. So thank you and welcome. Thank you, Dr. Lattimore.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Sheila. And then we have Letitia Vincent, who serves as our administrative coordinator in the Office of Strategic Partnership as well. Ms. Letitia.
Good evening, everyone. As Ms. Barbara said, my name is Letitia Vincent. I assist Ms. Sheila and Ms. Barbara Holt-Streeter as it relates to our projects and our grants. And essentially, I help with communications, and I also support the LDC in an administrative capacity and supporting with the grant process and the website management.
Thank you so very much. And without further ado, the woman of the hour, Ms. Kanika Bynum, who has been instrumental in sharing information, process, and protocols for this local development grant workshop, and that's why you all are here today. Ms. Kanika will provide you with her process in terms of presentation and Q&A. And as Ms. Sheila Curry mentioned earlier, we are all here to support and guide you along this journey of working towards getting more information for the grant resources. Ms. Kanika?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Kanika Bynum. I'm in the Office of Management and Budget for Prince George's County Government. Today, I have a PowerPoint that will go through the application process for the local development, local impact grant. And then it's pretty thorough. So we'll definitely take questions through the chat. You see there's a chat feature with this Zoom, but the presentation is pretty thorough. And so if you're able to just kind of write down your question and see if it gets answered sometime in the next 30 minutes. And then if it doesn't, feel free to put your question in the chat. So after I go through the presentation, I'll go through the portal, the application portal, and then all of the documents that you need to submit. If you have any questions at that point, please put them in the chat. But let's see if I don't answer most of those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Excuse me, Kanika, are we asking everybody to kind of put their name and company in the chat? Can we do that?
Sure. Everyone, please introduce yourselves. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is the 2024 Local Impact Grant Application Workshop. So just a reminder that the Local Development Council is a council that serves the 6 mile radius, that it was expanded a year or two ago, the 6 mile radius from the MGM casino. That's in Prince George's County. So although the 6 miles does reach into Washington, D.C. and Virginia, the radius that Prince George's County is talking about is within the county. So your services must help the people within this area, but you don't have to be located in that area. But your services need to help the people in this area. And so you'll see as a part of the application process, we do ask for an address that shows where you're located or how, a physical kind of pinpoint within the local impact area where your kind of services are based, even if your organization is not based there. So for today, we're going to go through the timeline for the grant process, look at the application, literally every section, go over the supporting documents. We'll look at the portal. For those who have been applying for a while, it used to be paper. Now it's electronic and you can apply online. The reporting requirements, if you are selected for an award, some reminders and some questions at the end. So to go through the timeline, today is February 22nd. We're doing the workshop. The application is due March 22nd. That's a Friday, 5 p.m. And that's when you need to have submitted your application. So you can start your application right now and you can save it. You'll be emailed an application number, and then you can go into that application in and out as often as you need to. Maybe you want to start a section, maybe you want to go see what's required and, take some notes, and you have to write a narrative. So that might take some time. So it's a good idea to go ahead and get started, at least creating an application, and then you can come back to it as you need to. But you have to submit that application by March 22nd. So we have here by April 19th, the Office of Management and Budget, which is my office, will review the applications that have been submitted to make sure that they all qualify for the award. So that means that you submitted all of the documents that were required. If that's not the case, maybe something was missing or something was incorrectly submitted, then we have a section of applicants who would be considered unqualified and they would not move on to be reviewed by the local development committee, the grant committee that reviews applications. So within that month timeframe, that's kind of what's going on there. You'll receive an email if your application has moved on to the next process, and you'll receive an email if it hasn't as well. So you'll receive that communication. Between April and June is when the LDC committee will be reviewing the applications. As Dr. Lattimore said, they have a rating system. And so during that time, those volunteers and LDC members will be carefully looking at each application, rating it, and then they share that amongst themselves and they come to an agreement for what they would recommend for the LDC as a whole in terms of funding for this grant cycle. And that meeting will happen on June 19th. So the third Wednesday of every month, the LDC meets. On that June meeting, the LDC will meet to vote on the awardees for the 2024 grant cycle. And then we have just a week to get that funding out to the folks who are awarded for this grant cycle. And of course, these dates are a little tentative. They're so far in the future, but in general, those are the dates that we're reaching for.
So Kanika, I have a question real quick. Can you go back to that slide? When you say for final consideration and public vote, the general public doesn't vote. It's just the LDC committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Just the LDC is voting, but it's public in that anyone can watch because anyone can attend the
Correct.
LDC.
Okay.
meetings.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna look at the portal, the actual portal. This is a screenshot, of course. So I'm going to slide past that. And then also here is just every section, but we're going to look at the portal. So I'm going to scoot past this a little fast, but you see it's organization information, the project that you're asking money for, what service category are you? You'll see those service categories when we look at the portal. So we'll look at those sections. And I'm going to bring the portal up. So I'm not able to share two things at once, so I have to reshare. All right, everyone can see the portal now? Great, so
Yes.
thank you. So this is the portal. This looks familiar. Here at the bottom are some instructions for eligibility. Let me try to make it a little bigger. You see here at the bottom, the maximum award is $50,000, the due date, eligibility. So you have to be a 501c3, provide services within the 6 mile radius. And if you're wondering, I know I serve Prince George's County, but am I in the 6 mile radius? There's actually a link where you can check on that. So this map here, and hit OK. If you put an address where you provide services, it will tell you if you are in the 6 mile radius. But here's the thing. If you try to put an address that is not in the radius, it won't even show up. So that's how you know. That's how you know that where I provide services, you know, maybe you're closer to over here, it's not in the 6 mile radius, the address won't even show up. But if the address does show up, if you're providing services at Oxon Hill Middle, the address will show up and then you'll know I'm in the 6 mile radius. Or this will also come in handy when you go to do your letter of support, because that needs to be from an organization within the 6 mile radius. And again, we're talking about within Prince George's County. So we'll get to that document later on, but just to note, if you try to pick an organization that's in the 6 mile radius, but in Alexandria, that won't count, because we want an organization that's in Prince George's County within a 6 mile radius from the MGM casino. So right along this line, somewhere in Fort Washington, Oxon Hill, that kind of area. So that link is there. So if we keep going, sufficient good standing, you have to be in good standing with the state. We'll go through that in detail. You can apply by filling out this very application right here. And then before you even start the application, so that you can get all your documents together, here's a list of all the documents that you will need in order to complete the application. And so it's a little lengthy, but a lot of them are pretty standard that you would need to apply for any public funds or even private funds. And all of these documents, if it's something that you need to fill out from the county, we provide a link in the application, and we'll see that soon. So here also is the email address. If you have any questions, it's at the bottom. It's PGC LDC grants. And then also in terms of something that you'll need to fill out, you see there's a link here. That's strange. We might need to check on that. We'll check on that, but there's a link here for a Word document template that you would download, and that's your project budgets and organization budgets that you'll need to fill out as part of your application. So if we were to start an application, it was working just a minute ago. Wonder if I've been on this site too long.
I was just going to say, because the other attachment does work on the live site.
Okay. I know sometimes if I've been on the site too long, it almost like gets stale. And so, but if you just kind of pop on the site and you go ahead and start, it won't be as stale. I've probably had this site up for 30 minutes. So section 1, your organization information, you'll fill out, I don't know, a name. You'll fill out your organization name, your federal tax ID, your phone number. I'll have to click something here just to be able to move forward. And then, so we have the difference between your mailing address, which is where your organization is located. So you could be, your organization could be in New York, but if you provide services locally, your mailing address would go where your organization, the mailing address for the organization, and then your local impact area address, because you might have multiple locations. So if you have an address where you provide services that's closer to the local impact area, again, that's a 6 mile radius, you'll put that address here. I'm just gonna put something just so we can move forward. You can put some names. You'll fill all of this out, your fiscal year. And then it opens, once you've done that, now you'll receive your application ID. You'll also get this in an email. And so now your application is to a point where you can shut this down from here and then log back in as long as you have that application ID and come back to it. So it can take multiple days, weeks if you want to complete this, as long as you have that application ID. So we come down here, you're going to do section 2, the name of your project, and then a brief description of what the services that you provide. There's a whole narrative section that you'll have to do. It's about 3 pages long. So this doesn't need to be a booklet, but it's good just to provide a sentence or two about how you serve the local impact area here. The amount you're requesting, again, the maximum is 50,000. The number of people that you serve, and the term dates that you would like the funding. In terms of the type of funding that you're requesting, program funding is for organizations that serve the citizens within the 6 mile radius. This will be most organizations. You have a program that is specific to the local impact area. For general funding, you have to be located in the local impact area. So your mailing address and your IRS address, your tax ID address, you are actually located within the local impact area. So we know it's a small area. That's what we're saying. Most people, most organizations are qualifying for program funding, but general funding is for organizations that are actually located in the local impact area. And then we do have an option for capital funding. That's rarely an ask, but that is an option there. We have the age group of people, the people that you're servicing, and you see you can click multiples here. And then is your service accessible to people with disabilities? You have an option here. If you do partnerships with other organizations in the county, you can go here and add the organization's name and how you guys partner. You can save section 2. Section 3, you'll choose a service category. So you see there's many here. You can only choose one. I understand that some organizations might have multiple, but we do have to try to categorize the funding request somehow. And so you can only choose one. So I would say choose your best one, your priority one, choose that there so we can just categorize the request somehow. Section 4. Here, if you've received grants or contracts from the county in the past, I would say for this, maybe about 5 years back. So as of 2019, have you received any other funding from the county? That could be from the county council. That could be from the county executive's office. That could be if you received a grant from the Department of Health or the school board. If you've received any other public funds, then we'd like for you to note that here. If you're using a fiscal sponsor, if you're willing to provide matching grants, and then your OMB verified SAP number. So this is very important. You cannot get paid without a vendor number. The county, this is a part of the county's accounting system. Honestly, I would say the very first thing that you should do tomorrow morning is send an email to the PGC LDC grants email asking for your OMB verified vendor number, and someone will get back to you. It might take a couple of days, but someone will get back to you with that vendor number. If you know that you've never received a payment from the county in the past, then you need to register as a vendor. And we like to get this kind of done up front because this can be a very lengthy process. So please do not start. I really try to stress this because I think people, they wait until the last minute and then they get very stressed out about how long it takes. Registering as a vendor with the county is not a quick process. It is not a 2-day process. So please start as soon as you can. If you know that you've never received a payment from the county, please look to register as soon as possible so that you can have that number. And of all this is kind of one of the documents or one of the requirements that you need that is not as in, there are more people who touch this need than just you. So you're not as in control of this need because you have to go through the county's registration process. And of course, there are tons of vendors trying to register with the county at any given moment. So please just start that process as soon as you can. For the next one, here we have that need linked again. We'll check on that. But this is the Word doc that will be a budget for your organization and then a budget for the project that you're asking for. So your organization as a whole might do 5 different things. You might have tutoring and food delivery and you know, a clinic. And so the total organization's budget might be $15 million. But the program that you're asking money for that serves the local impact area might be $600,000. So here you'll be able to differentiate between the budget that is your organization's budget versus the budget that is the for this particular program that you're requesting funding for.
Kanika,
Yes, ma'am.
there's just one question in the chat about registering for the county vendor number.
Yes,
Is there a
ma'am.
link in the portal for that?
No, you have to send an email. Let me see. It's best to send an email because you might already have even if you haven't received a payment for a while, you might already have one. So it's good to send an email so that we can check.
Okay, and they send it to the LDC grants email.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, there's no link here because you have to go through the Office of Central Services and they have a kind of like their own portal that you would fill out. But
I got you.
if
I
people
got
send
you.
an email, then we can direct them to that.
Okay, great. Letitia, can you put the email address in the chat, please?
Okay, so this next item is extremely important because this is how once you get through, you know, hopefully you've provided all of your documents accurately. This is how the LDC committee that is reviewing the grants will get to know you the best. And so here is a proposal narrative. This is text narrative that you write to introduce your organization, to introduce the work that you do to the committee so that they can make a decision. There's a request to make a justification. So, you know, what you think your problem is that you'd like to solve in the area. Demonstrate the need, demonstrate how you can best meet that need. And then also a program description. So you can describe your program, how it will be implemented, how you'll measure outcomes, how you'll evaluate success. And of course, also how you can be sustainable. That's the 3rd section. We do ask that there is a limit of 3 pages. So, you know, we want it to be as detailed and as impactful as possible, but we also want to limit because I think, as Dr. Lattimore said, they have to review a lot of applications. And so we want you to be able to describe your programming, but we also want it to be at a limit of about 3 pages so that they can actually read through it. So that narrative is something that you would do in a Word document, and then you could upload that here. Supporting documents, we'll be going through this in great detail, but as you can see here, it lists everything that you'll need. So 1, 2, you need upload your IRS tax determination letter, upload your good standing, your organization's mission statement, and then a link for an example of what we're looking for. Oh my goodness, this is something. I think we'll have to check on this. We literally just did this. It's interesting. But there will be an example here for what it is that we're looking for so that you don't accidentally send the wrong thing. Let me see if this one works.
Kanika, it's because you're in the test app versus the actual live app.
Oh,
I
am
just
I?
noticed your URL.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't, I guess I didn't choose the right link when I opened it. Thanks for noticing that. Yeah, because I know that we fixed these. So I guess, yeah, I used the wrong link. Thank you. But yeah, there is a link here with an example of what we're looking for. And so here I just clicked the link here and it'll show you an example of what we're looking for. So I know something that we've seen often is for the IRS determination letter, what this letter does is it's the IRS saying, yes, you are a 501c3. Any letter from the IRS doesn't communicate that. So it's not that we need a letter from the IRS, it's that we need the letter from the IRS that communicates that you are a 501c3. Thank you, Letitia, sharing the right link with me. Very helpful. Let me open up this one. Oh, and it's also, I think it also is better if I use Explorer instead of Chrome, even though I so prefer Chrome. But let me reshare with the right link.
While she's pulling that up, I'll just answer the question in the chat. The
Please.
recording of this workshop will be uploaded to the LDC website, and I'll put that link in the chat for you as well. But all of the LDC information that is shared this evening will be uploaded to the LDC website and the LDC Local Impact Grant website as well.
That was the right link. I won't be able to use it because I have to start all over and it doesn't have my information saved so that I can just like quickly get through it. I'd have to like type things. But this is a very similar website. Of course, the website that organizations will have access to will be the live site. We're just kind of moving on. Good standing. So we know that everyone applying should be a 501c3. But you still need to be in good standing with the state. We understand that you don't pay, some of you might not pay taxes or property taxes, but there are still some filings that you'll need to do. And you can do a search wherever you're registered. So assumingly most people are registered in Maryland, you can still search for your organization and it'll show if you're in good standing. So I don't want to really pull up someone for just in case, but if you put in your business name, you'll search, you'll have to actually then click on your name. It's not just a search. So you search, click on your name, and then it will explicitly say whether or not you're in good standing. So here we go. This is a random organization. This business is in good standing. If you go to pull that up and it says this business is not in good standing, you should not turn that into us. You should speak with the state, get in good standing, and then turn that into us. Submitting the search is not sufficient. You have to actually be in good standing with the state. So it's good to probably look that up now, just in case, because you will submit this now, but once the LDC makes decisions in June, we will relook at this because the county can't offer public funds to organizations that aren't in good standing with the state. So between now when you're submitting an application and June when the LDC is making decisions is tax time. And so for some organizations, if in that time you haven't submitted the correct tax documents to the state, you could go from being in good standing in February to not being in good standing in June. And that would disqualify you again, because the county can't send public funds to organizations that aren't in good standing with the state. So I would highly suggest checking on that now, taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of, and kind of maintaining that, knowing that we will have to recheck this in June before payments are sent out. a copy of your organization's mission statement. A lot of organizations just kind of cut and paste what's on their website, or, you know, probably somewhere within your documents. So you can just PDF that and attach that here. Again, that's another way that the LDC committee gets to know who you are and what you do. A list of your board of directors, financial statements. So we understand that these are all 501c3 organizations, and technically you're not required to file tax returns with the IRS or have audited financial statements by a certified public accountant. However, to receive county funds, which are public funds, taxpayer dollars, we do need any organizations that receive money from us to either be submitting tax returns to the IRS or have audited financial statements done by a certified public accountant. For a lot of organizations, I'm sure it's too costly to get audited financial statements. Maybe you're not big enough, it's not practical. The 990 EZ is something that you can file, and at one or the other, either a 990 return or audited financial statements are required in order to be eligible for the funding. So although to exist, you are not required to have audited financial statements or file a 990 return. In order to receive public funds, you are in this county, you are required. This is not the same thing as the state of Maryland's charitable registration. That is irrelevant to what we're talking about right here. So I think a lot of organizations will say, well, I don't have to do that. You're right, you don't. But to receive county funds, you will have to submit one of these documents. And so this is what this will look like. Form 990, filed to the IRS.
Kanika, just one quick question here.
Please.
So organizations that file a 990N, will you accept a 990N?
Thank you. So that's actually a change. In the past that was accepted, but the 990N really doesn't show any information about an organization's revenue or expenses. And so a 990N will no longer be accepted for this grant award. You will have to submit either a 990 regular return or a 990 EZ. So the 990N will not be accepted here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kanika, along those same lines, the IRS is behind. So are you accepting the screenshots of the recent filings and then the report of the most recent submitted or return form? Or do they have to have a 2023, 2022 filing?
You definitely don't have to have 2023. I think 2022 at this stage should be available. Ms. Curry, I don't know if you don't mind weighing in about whether 2021 should be acceptable.
Yes, I think so. And you guys do require the IRS select check search, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I do see a question from Rhonda Ford asking about the IRS being backlogged. And yes, we do know that the IRS has been backlogged since COVID. So if you do that search and find that your 990s are not showing up on their website, please reach out to the IRS and try to get them to at least update your 990s and your information as quickly as possible. But we will accept 2021. 2022 is not on there, that's okay. Because we do know that there's a backlog, but we do not accept a 990N. I see another question about that. So it has to be the long form 990 or the short form 990 EZ or an audited financial statement. One of the three. Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Ms. Curry. All right, try to get back here. So job descriptions. If part of your request for funds is that the $50,000 or however much you're asking for would pay for salaries, then we request that a job description be attached for all of the salaries that you are requesting funds for. So it might be maybe a social media coordinator, then we would look for a job description for a social media coordinator. Or if it's, 10% executive director, maybe 30% of another type of coordinator, a child coordinator, every position, even if it's just 10%, a job description for the funds that are being requested. Let's see. We have an example of a job description. Conflict of interest. For a lot of organizations, this would be a part of your bylaws or articles somewhere. So a conflict of interest statement, the IRS form W-9. So this is an IRS form that you can find on Google. A letter of support from an organization, and we have community group, of PTA, PTO, or a church located in, and this isn't an exhaustive list, but an organization that's located within this radius that can speak to your abilities to kind of work in the community and meet the need that you're talking about. So this is very important. This is not just a letter of support from any organization. It does have to be within the 6-mile radius. We have had organizations submit everything accurately, and then the letter of support is from an organization in Bowie, and it does not count. We are these funds, this council is for this neighborhood, and so we're looking for organizations that are in this neighborhood and that can support this neighborhood. And again, we do have the map, so you can confirm whether or not the organization that you're looking for a letter from is actually within the radius. And then we also just have an ACH form. The county is not connected to the school system, so you might already have an account with the school system that you receive funds from. We're actually not connected. We don't share the same accounting systems and payment systems. So you do have to fill out the ACH form. Sorry, this one. You do have to fill out the ACH form. Sorry, I'm on the test site. You do have to fill out the ACH form. Even if you have submitted before, we like to have it because I don't know how many times organizations say, oh, we're up to date. And then we have to go back and get the ACH information from them. But like I said, we only have 7 days once the LDC has made a decision. And so we ask that you submit this upfront with your application. So after those documents, you'll sign an assurances. And you can read this. Applicant will administer the funds in compliance with the submitted proposal. There are just lots of parts here just saying that you will use the funds as you said that you would, that you are subject to an audit if requested, that the LDC, you agree to be, there's a committee that kind of oversees how the funds are being spent and might call or do a site visit at times. So it's that you would agree to those, you would affirm that, and then you can hit the submit button. You see there's also a print application button. That's a really good idea so that you can, everything that you've submitted, keep your attachments. You can print that, keep it as a PDF, either one, and then you can submit. You should receive an email when you submit it. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing.
So Kanika, can I say something for a minute? So
Please.
when Kanika spoke about the committee members visiting and dropping in on some of these grants, we did a lot of that last year. If you had like a virtual tutoring program then, for example, I would, make arrangements with the grantee to attend one of their tutoring programs. I went to visit I think I forget what it is, but Walter has it down there in the National Harbor, the Job Center. So I went down there a couple of days and just stayed in there for 3 or 4 hours just to, see where the money is going and how it's being spent and if it's exactly what you wrote on the application. So this year, one idea, and I'm gonna run it past the LDC members, is that once the grants are approved and assigned, then we're going to assign one of the members to oversee that application. So that, they'll drop in or drop by just to see, how your company is running is it incongruent with your application? It's not that we're checking, but a lot of times, and we have had instances, for example, last year where the grant money was not being used for what the initial application was for. At that point, you can ask for a repurpose, and she'll explain that more because I don't want to take over her training. And sometimes the grant money was used for other things, and we had to turn those applicants over to a different office for investigation. So I think it's a great idea that we get involved with these applications and with these grants, and just have some oversight. So, it's not like we're spying, but it's education for us as well, because we get to learn your programs and understand what you're doing for the community. So I think that we're going to try to implement that this year, but I want to get with the grants committee to make sure that that's something that they would like to do also, just to get their buy-in.
Right. All right, so I'm going to reshare, and we're almost at the end. So we've kind of went over the supporting documents already, but just a quick double take. The IRS exempt organization select check. You would go to the website, it's in the portal. The IRS tax determination letter, that you're in good standing. Again, the charitable registration, that's not what we're interested in. Financial statements. So this is a Form 990 or audited financial statements. A letter of support from an organization within Prince George's County in the 6-mile radius, sorry. And then the other kind of smaller items that we talked about. So for reporting requirements, in terms of if you actually did receive the award, we do have mid-year and final reports that would be due. It includes financial information and narrative information. So those reports would go to the LDC committee and it's for their review. Like Dr. Lattimore said, they can take those reports and then they also do in-person or calls. But those reports are due to the county staff and they are kind of kept on record. And the Office of Audits and Investigation often just randomly kind of chooses where county funds are going. And at any point, they can also request these reports. So the reporting template is sent out before the reports are due. And a part of the assurances, like I said, is that the LDC committee reserves the right to programmatic evaluation, site monitoring, to request more detail in terms of general ledger and receipts and things like that. I also
Tamika, excuse me, what happens if they don't send the reports in?
I mean, we don't have I think we just kind of continue asking. And so if it kind of becomes a situation, most organizations, I think, are kind of used to the reporting cycle. So on the whole, most organizations are sending in the reports. But for organizations that don't, it's noted, and it might become maybe in the future. There's a list that the county keeps in terms of the different ways that, there's county council grants, and there's this program, the CPG program. And for organizations that aren't in really good compliance, it's just kind of noted in terms of awards for other grants. But there isn't, as of right now, kind of in terms of going to audits and investigations for like a formal, there would have to be a suspicion or a
Right.
decision on part of, the chair or, some other grant manager that they'd want a specific investigation. But if the reports aren't turned in, it's just kind of noted kind of for the future in terms of future awards.
Right. And so last year, that's why I'm asking, because last year, the way we did it is if they didn't send in a report, the 2 reports, they weren't considered for any future awards.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we're going to do it that way this year.
Right. And that's so that's like an informal way to kind of encourage organizations to be in compliance. And that might be what the LDC decides to do, but then that information is also shared with other grant programs in the county so that they know, oh, okay, this organization wasn't in compliance with the LDC grant. They probably wouldn't be in compliance with ours either. So that information is just kind of noted internally with the county. But also wanted to note in terms of reporting requirements, the grant is offered for about 12 months. And so you have in your award letter would be given terms for when the reports are due. And so I think it's like end of December and end of June. If you think that you won't spend all the funds in time, then you can request an extension that would go before the LDC chair, and they would make that decision whether or not the organization can be granted an extension. You would submit a letter stating why you need an extension. If there was a reason, especially during COVID, a lot of organizations were doing that. And then there might also be the case, also, of course, during COVID, that perhaps you're not able to spend the funds for what they were originally requested for. So if something about your programming has changed significantly, then you can submit a request to repurpose the grant, and that would go before the LDC and the chair, and they would make a decision, yay or nay. And they might want to learn more about that, but originally, to kind of start that process, you would send a letter to the LDC with that request, and then that's a decision that they would make, and we would communicate with you whether or not that was approved or denied from that point. Just some quick do's and don'ts in terms of submitting this application and going through the grant process. Of course, things that you would expect. Start with verifying your vendor registration number. Again, because if you do not have one, it's a very time consuming process. And so I would get started with that right now. Follow the instructions, proofread your proposal, present realistic grant budgets, address sustainability in your narrative. That was one of the 3 points of the narrative. And then for any question that you have, it's shocking how few emails we get. But for any question that you have, please submit a question to this email, pgcldcgrants, and we'll get back to you. Please email and ask a question if you're not sure, rather than just submitting and assuming the best. You really want to put your best foot forward, because once your application is submitted, we really don't do resubmissions, especially after the deadline. So it's really better to ask. Please don't wait till the last minute. And so that's on the don'ts. Please don't wait until the last minute. This application is due March 22nd. And in that time, of course, all county staff are very busy. Asking a question on March 21st is bold. So please look over the application. Even if you don't fill it out tonight, just look it over. See, okay, do I feel comfortable with all of these questions? Can I answer this right now? Is there anything I need to get so I can be prepared to maybe completely submit this a week from now or 2 weeks from now? But please don't wait until the last minute. Please double check all the required supporting documents. Please don't make assumptions. Please ask. Even if you're 99% sure of the answer, please ask. It's just an email. And please do not copy anyone else's grant. That's also very important. Okay, so now we're gonna open up to questions. I don't know if anything's in the chat.
I have a question. So once the applications come in, Kanika,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I've always wondered this, I know you guys go through them to make sure that all the documentation is there. And if all the documentation is there, do you automatically send those applications to us? What would be a reason that the committee would not get an application that was submitted?
The only reason the LDC would not get an application that was submitted is because it's missing one of the required supporting documents. That is the
Thank
only
you.
reason. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'm gonna stop sharing so we can all see each other.
Kanika, I have to give a shout out to Ms. Sheila and Letitia. They have been managing this chat, the chat side, as well as the Q&A. They have been answering all of those questions in a timely manner.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so definitely teamwork. And I'm looking at I think the chat, we've answered all the questions. I'm checking Q&A. It appears we've answered all the questions as well. Michelle and Letitia, did I miss anything?
Awesome.
No, ma'am.
Somebody had their hand up, Casey Dyson, and then they put it down.
Okay.
Okay.
I actually was just clapping.
Oh,
Okay, I
Thank
guess I
you.
better learn the emojis then.
Sorry.
Thank you.
awesome. Awesome. Well, if anyone has any questions, if your question is detailed or very specific, feel free to send an email. Please send an email. We are monitoring the email. So please feel free to ask a very detailed, very pointed, this only applies to my organization question.
There was one question in the chat. Are organizations who are not chosen notified?
Yes. Yes. Via email, and we send out a letter. So I guess shockingly, a lot of our letters come back and a lot of the emails bounce back. So please just be careful when you're, typing your address and typing your email. And also spelling your organization name. Please be careful with that.
So as we wrap up, again, the deadline is March the 22nd. Any questions, please email us. That is the pgcldcgrants@co.pg.md.us. This Zoom video will be posted on the Local Development Council website, so you will be able to receive the information and just sit through it again to make sure you have any other questions or concerns or feedback. Again, as Ms. Kanika had mentioned, please email us more than a notion to make sure that you are prepared. And if there are no other questions on our end, Dr. Lattimore, do you have
No,
any
I
questions
just
to
want to
close us out?
thank you guys for putting this grant workshop on. You guys did a tremendous job. So thank you, Letitia, Kanika, Ms. Curry, and Ms. Streeter. I just look forward to getting the applications. Excuse my dog. A lot of times, we think we have a lot of time, the members and I do, but it's the summer, it's the nice weather, so you have to be heads down in the house. So please make sure you have all your information so we can kind of zoom through them. I don't think we're going to do that, but I really do look forward to seeing what's out there, the new impacts that are coming in, and how it's going to make a difference in the county. And again, I can't thank the Strategic Partnership Office more than enough, because this is a really important program and I enjoy doing it. So thank you guys for coming, and I appreciate everything that you do for the county.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Night.